The Trump administration continues to move forward with its common sense agenda as a administration, and they slapped China yesterday with massive 125% tariffs on all the goods that they ship here to the United States. This is a big problem, and the fact that it is a problem for us really highlights how backwards of a country we have become in the area of international trade. We should never have become so reliant on another country, let alone a country that is governed by communists, and also a country like China that is so adversarial and so aggressive as China has been in recent years as it has become a major international powerhouse. And it fights with neighboring nations like Japan and the Philippines, and is very aggressive in the South China Sea. And also, the maps and globes in China look different from maps and globes of the world everywhere else in the world, because China shows all these areas, in India, they will show Taiwan as being part of China, which Taiwan is its own country. And they're really balkanizing their military so that they can hopefully, I guess, in their eyes, hopefully take over Taiwan one day, which, the United States might have to intervene in that situation. So us sending them billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and then in turn, they only buy, a couple $1 billion worth of stuff from us is completely backwards and definitely counterintuitive to, American interests, which Donald Trump is laser focused on just promoting American interests internationally. So this is very counterintuitive to the interests of the United States. It would essentially be the equivalent to if during the Cold War, the United States had been sending hundreds of billions of dollars in trade deficits over to the Soviet Union, that which in turn they could use to bolster their war machine and produce weapons that could eventually be used against the United States. China is preparing for, war eventually with the United States potentially. And they actually have in one of their deserts, they have replicas of United States aircraft carriers, which they use for target practice with their intercontinental cruise missiles that move at ultrasonic speed that they've been developing over the last several years. So yeah, it absolutely makes no sense to keep sending them money, which could eventually, cost Americans many lives. And I think this is one of the things that the elites were actually afraid of, and why they tried to basically put Donald Trump in jail and to keep him from doing this as president. And also, they made it basically very easy for someone to use violence against Donald Trump, and it almost worked. They came within, hitting him in the ear. So it all makes sense why, this is just one of the reasons why they were willing to go to such great lengths to protect their interests so that they could keep getting rich and keep their friends rich, like I said. It's really ironic that these same people that are advancing Chinese interests at the expense of American interests will, they will talk until they're blue in the face and scream about, racism in America. And, they'll perpetuate this idea that America is a racist country. And they'll put these big stories out there that have nothing to do with race, and there's no evidence that race played a factor in the story, but they'll act like it's like definitely 100% linked to racism. And they try to keep our population arguing about silly things like that and drag queen story hour or whatever, and completely ignore all the ample examples of real racism in China and the horrific human rights violations there, against the Uyghur Muslims. China won't even put a black person in a movie poster because, they're afraid that their population won't go see the movie. They did that with Star Wars, and I think another movie, I think Black Panther, they did the same thing. On the movie poster, they keep the person of color completely covered up head to toe, so you can't tell their skin color. And, China is perfectly happy to use this to their advantage because they know, what the left is talking about here. And they used it to their advantage. If you remember a couple years ago against the Biden administration, some of the Chinese diplomats were basically throwing it in Tony Blinken's face. If you don't remember, it's a couple years old, so I'll go ahead and play the video for you to jog your memory on this.
Is firmly opposed to U.S. interference in China's internal affairs. We have expressed our staunch opposition to such interference, and we will take firm actions in response. On human rights, we hope that the United States will do better on human rights. China has made steady progress in human rights, and the fact is that there are many problems within the United States regarding human rights, which is admitted by the U.S. itself as well. The United States has also said that countries can't rely on force in today's world to resolve the challenges we face. And it is a failure to use various means to topple the so-called authoritarian states. And the challenges facing the United States in human rights are deep-seated. They did not just emerge over the past 4 years, such as Black Lives Matter. It did not come up only recently. So we do hope that for our two countries, it's important that we manage our respective affairs well, instead of deflecting the blame on somebody else in this world.
The Chinese are no dummies, so they knew that they had the Biden administration over a barrel on this. And what is the Biden administration supposed to do? How are they supposed to respond to that? They're going to be like, oh yeah, we've been talking about how America is such a racist country for the past several years, but you're wrong on this. And, there's no way to refute that. Like, there's no way for them to be talking against China and their human rights violations when we've been clearly talking about how America is this huge racist country. So, and then also the Biden administration was weak on China most likely because, China gave Hunter Biden $5 million. If you remember, it came up in the investigation a couple years ago. And quickly after that, money was given to Hunter. $40,000 of that was given to Joe Biden in his bank account, which was put in there by James Biden, Joe's brother, who said it was a loan repayment. It's like, okay, what was the loan for, dude? Like, this doesn't really add up here. And it's no wonder that the Biden administration was so weak on China because of these two issues that I'm pointing out right now. And it would have been, right after COVID would have been the perfect time for the United States and the world to really hammer China and go after them after COVID, because everyone was so angry at China for how they handled COVID. They likely leaked it from the biolab that they have there, and then they tried to cover it up and pretend like it didn't happen, which caused the pandemic to be, a million times worse. Instead of, just trying to keep it, in that city, they acted like it never happened. So it just spread all over the world almost instantly. So yeah, it was really a missed opportunity because we had unserious people in power, during that last administration at a crucial time that we really could have been going after China. And another reason why we should not be propping up China and sending them hundreds of billions of dollars a year is because they prop up these other countries that are bad actors on the world stage as well. Like North Korea. North Korea is only able to sustain itself because China is over there propping them up, because I guess China wants to have, another bad guy in the region that they can point to. They'd be like, oh, we're not that bad on human rights. Look at North Korea over here. And, and they've been enabling North Korea and helping support their military so that they become a threat to everyone else. And we don't want to attack them because, they could potentially, easily nuke South Korea or Japan. And then China's also, with North Korea, they're the number one consumer of North Korean sex slaves. All the women that are, brought over and smuggled into China from North Korea. It's disgusting and mind-blowing that that is going on in the world today. And China also props up Iran and Russia and helps them out and allies themselves with those two countries, which are definitely not good actors. And there's a couple of issues and why Ukraine never could win this war. It really was hopeless for them when China and India decided that, okay, we're going to keep getting energy from them, and the rest of Europe is there to blame as well. You know, Germany and the UK and the other European nations, that they wanted to outsource their energy production because of the climate change hoax, and they're like, oh, we're a zero emissions country, but they're outsourcing all their energy production and letting, you know, Russia basically get their hands dirty. And you know, when you're tied up with Russia, you're gonna get your hands dirty too. And these people just aren't serious, and they're just trying to moralize themselves and look good while all the while, you know, propping up these bad countries. And you know, the Europeans have given just as much money to Russia as they have to Ukraine. So, and then they try to pin it back on the United States and be like, oh, the United States, it's your fault. You should be giving Ukraine more money. It's like, no, guys, you guys are over there. And also, you're giving so much money to Russia because you decided not to be energy dependent and shut down, you know, we're not going to have nuclear power, and we're going to get rid of our coal industry. We'll just, you know, get all of our energy from Russia. But you know, they've been sending just as much money to Russia during the war as they've been sending to Ukraine, because you know, they decided that they were going to be these elitists that don't need to produce their own energy. And look how that's worked out for them. So yeah, it is about time that someone finally stood up to China and tried to break this relationship. It's this abusive relationship with them. The Chinese, they are bad for American businesses. They lie, they cheat, they steal from us. All of our, you know, intellectual properties, all the spying they do on American businesses and the American military is unacceptable. And it's good that someone's finally standing up to them. And, you know, maybe we can eventually, you know, if we break them financially, maybe we can avoid a conflict with them in the future. And I'm sure there's a lot of more work left to do, but hopefully we can stay the course and do something with, you know, Trump's brilliant negotiating skills. If you liked this video, please go ahead and give me a like and subscribe to my channel. My channel is Appeal to Reason. You can find it on YouTube and on Rumble. Share the video with your friends, and thank you so much for your time and attention.